You're listening to an Ada's Books podcast.
Welcome to Parenting and Bonding with Children's Books. Each Tuesday in our Facebook community, we go live to chat with a children's book author about the magic of books. Each book and author was chosen with you and your children in mind. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's Author Spotlight. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Parenting and Bonding with Children's Books podcast. This is the 5th episode of our live video podcast. Those of you in our group watch it live, and then we send it over to YouTube and your favorite place to podcast the next day. Our goal is to reach as many parents as possible. So we're live here in the group to start because we want to take question and answer at the end for you guys. Our message is simple. Books are magical. They transform homes, and they can help strengthen the bonds with our kiddos. Here on this podcast, we're joined by the authors that make the magic happen to find out the true intention behind the books. We want to leave you all empowered to up your game with story time. So tonight, we're joined by the author behind Beaming Child Books. Welcome, Charulatha.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. Our message is so aligned, and it is, great to have somebody on a podcast that's speaking the same message, to the parents. Every children's book author that we have on has a message for the parents, but I just love the story behind your books. So if you don't mind, I'll just tell the audience a little bit about you, and then we'll just move on from there. So Charulatha is a full-time mom based in Bangalore, India. She is an engineer by profession, and she took a break from work to enjoy her daughter's precious moments and finally found her calling in writing stories for children. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I have, where do I start? I was pretty much born, brought up, and have since lived in 8 different cities in India. And I think books has always played a really important part in my life, because we kept moving and, I was a bit of an introvert. So they really literally saved me in every city. And, I didn't need friends. I made friends eventually, but the books really helped me. And I've always been a voracious reader. And right now, it's amazing trying to parent. I'm saying trying to because I feel parenting is hard, and I have 2 lovely daughters. They are 6 and 9 years of age, and that's about it.
Well, thank you for sharing. We have some things in common because I work in tech during the day. That's my full time. And I was very introverted growing up, and I'm still an introvert now. And books played a large part in my life. I had a brother, and he was very social, but I was like always in the house reading books and playing on the computer. So we have that in common. So we're here to talk about your book series, Beaming Child Books, and I love it because I know that I've read that your vision is to make parenting an easier journey through your books. So tell us more about your motivation behind the book series.
So I started writing this series of books for the children, and my vision, as you said, was to make parenting easier. And one of the steps I felt was imbibing our children with some really essential values. I feel values are so important, right? And sometimes during our course of parenting, we don't really get time to reinforce all the values that we really want our children to have. And these books were essentially a step towards that. And nobody likes to read preachy books. Okay, if an adult is saying, oh, you have to be resilient, you have to be persistent. nobody is going to listen to that, and none of the kids are going to want to read that story again. So I really wanted to make the stories fun and warm stories and fun stories, and just sprinkle these values around. And somewhere, when children really love the characters, they will start trying to emulate the kind of values that these characters have. And that, I mean, that was my the vision, that somewhere the children will pick up these values from these stories. So
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. That's so interesting, and I love it because that's how like this whole thing started. The podcast and my group, it was all about helping parents to use books as tools to push forward the values that they want to instill in their children. So when we speak about core values, I know that the ones that you focus on, we perseverance, resilience, compassion, empathy, and curiosity. And we did like a little thing in our group where I asked all the parents what messaging or what values they wanted to instill in their children. And we select books according to those core values, like somewhere in the group. But many of the values that you're using to build your series are aligned with the parents in our group. And so I think that's awesome. How did you choose these values? Like, what was the process like?
So, in my mind, I'm first a parent, right? So I think about what I want my daughters to have. When they grow up, I want them to achieve the goals that they set for themselves. It could be anything, whatever they want. But what are these core values? One, I feel resilience is really important, right? Like you try something, you fail, but you bounce back. That's really important. You can't give up at that point of time and say, okay, that's it, I'm done, and walk away from it. I feel that's one of the core values that everybody should have: resilience. I mean, not only children, like as adults also, we all should have that quality of resilience. And somewhere I also feel compassion for others.
Yeah.
And right now I feel the children are probably I don't want to say selfish, but more involved in the
No, I agree. Kids are. They're in
yeah,
their own world. Mm-hmm.
exactly. They're in their own world, and I would love for them to have some compassion and that thought for others. That there are others who are living different lives, and there is something that we can do to change that, or to at least make it a little better. So all these, I mean, I really want my daughters to have these thought processes in their head. And I mean, that's how I come up with the values. I just think like, okay, what are the values that I want my daughters to have, and which is going to make them really like good human beings at the end of the day.
Yes. Thank you for that. And speaking of your daughters, they are the inspiration behind the characters in your books as well, correct?
Yes, yes, yes. So two of the three characters which the stories revolve around are based on my own daughters.
I think that that's awesome. So, your daughters, how do they like to see themselves in the books? Do they get excited when the books come?
Absolutely, absolutely. And they're really thrilled. And I think they have been ever since I started writing it. And I mean, for them, it was difficult to understand the whole process of, how writing, and then I had to find the illustrator, then I had to find, somebody to publish or print it. It was a slightly long process, and they got really impatient. And every day they used to like, other books out today, other books out today. And it was very tough for me to tell them, no, I mean, that it's still going to take more time. And they have been really thrilled about it. I mean, they tell all their friends, they're like, "Oh, my mother writes, and this character is about me." They just love it.
I love it. And I love the illustrations in your books as well. I love that they're, diverse. Of course, you modeled them after your own family. And I've read on your site that it was very important to you for your children to read a series where their culture was reflected, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, I think that that's a wonderful thing. Do you ever work in any elements, or what elements of your culture do you feel are important to work into your books?
I mean, more than culture, I feel I want the children to identify with the characters,
Yeah.
and identify with them as somebody they see around them every single day. And my daughters read a lot of books, and I saw most of these books are either British or American,
Yeah.
and so that the entire life, everything is about the American or the British culture.
Hmm.
And although I wouldn't say we are very cultural in the way, or religious, or not in that way, but the kind
Yeah.
of life in India, it is different, right? I mean, you have there are stray dogs on the road all the time here,
Okay.
and you do things like that, and you have domestic helps always around in your houses, and somebody is there to cook, clean. These are the kind of things they see every day, and I
Hmm.
wanted to incorporate these things which they would relate to easily. And I
Yes.
mean, that's why I was keen on including some things from the Indian way of life.
Yes. I love that you did that. It's so important. I want my son, we've read your book, Dia and the Tournament. And it's so important for me to have him read books about other cultures, about other backgrounds, because that's one of the key ways that we build compassion, right? We have our children
Yeah.
read stories that are not familiar to them. They learn about other people's lives, and, they build that value, compassion,
Right,
by
right.
reading the books, right? And we talk about in the group all the time, finding the importance of finding diverse books and things of that nature. I don't have a picture of your book right now, but I love your illustrations. How did you decide on an illustrator?
Uh, so Illustrator, it wasn't easy finding an illustrator.
Mhm.
So initially I had thought, since I'm doing something Indian related and the Indian way of life, I need to have an Indian illustrator.
Okay.
And I went searching for one online. I mean, I'm an introvert. I just love the virtual world, and finding things online is
Yeah,
is the best gift for me. uh,
I agree.
but the first attempt at finding an illustrator wasn't so successful, in
Mhm.
that, like, I mean, I wasn't very happy with the illustrations, and I used to keep iterating, and the end product looked exactly the same like it looked a month ago. So I wasn't really happy with that, and then I came across this wonderful illustrator, Tatiana, and she's Russian, and on her Upwork profile, like, the kind of images that she had was exactly in line with what I would have wanted, or I would want for my book. And I just found somewhere, her all her illustrations were just oozing warmth. I don't know if you can sense that, but I just
I
could
can.
sense. Yeah, I could sense, like, that sort of a happiness or warmth coming out of her illustrations, and immediately I contacted her, and it worked out beautifully. It, I just loved her illustrations. It was. Mhm.
Yeah, the warmth definitely comes across in your books, in the illustrations, in the words that you chose. Especially, well, let's talk a little bit about Dia and the tournament. Reading that book, I loved how you incorporated the parents in the book as well, in helping your daughters realize. Well, let me stop. Tell us about Dia and the tournament.
The end, the tournament is actually my favorite story of all the stories. Absolutely, because it went through a lot of iterations. Like,
Okay.
how do I make Dia understand the value of bouncing back? How do I make her understand, what the importance of working hard,
Mhm.
and not just giving up at the first sign of failure. So the story went through a lot of iteration, and I loved going through that whole, the whole range of emotions of how I'm going to get her to realize. And it shouldn't be, again, I didn't want it to be like preachy or some adult coming and saying that you need to do it. I wanted her to realize on her own,
Yeah.
and looking at others as an example. And so, I mean, it was a fun journey for me to write Dia's story, and I loved how the end product turned out. It was fun.
Yes, I love the messaging that we got from the book. We loved it. Was one, the resilience, the importance of practice, the importance of not hanging on to the loss.
Yeah.
Don't hang on to the loss. Figure out how to just make yourself better. And one of the quotes that I loved from the book was, you said, or you wrote, at the end of the day, we are not just competing against each other. We are also trying to become better than we were yesterday.
Yeah.
And I love that in the book, and how you talk about how she came to, how she learned from others the next steps that she should take when she approached her previous competition and while she was practicing. And the little girl, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the little girl said to her, yes, I won, but what I discovered in our competition was that my weak spot was here. So I'm trying to learn from that.
Yeah.
And then I'll keep saying your daughter, Dia, she said, wow, like, you won, but you're still taking this so seriously. You're still practicing. You're not gloating on your win. You move past that and you're back to practice. That should be important to me as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And what I was saying at first was, I loved how you incorporated the parents into the story as well. There were so many places in the book for Dia to learn from. And she had so many different models to learn from in the book as well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important for our kids to recognize the different players in their lives and how they can contribute to making them better as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me see. I noticed in the back of the book, you have a place for notes, which is wonderful. And you asked, do you tell good stories? Do you want to be a co-author of a published book? Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that works?
So I wanted children to give me some more plot lines. I mean, I was trying to fish for some more interesting plot lines which children will love. And so I thought it was a good opportunity for everybody to, write in. So people can write in at the email address given, and just tell me some interesting stories that they have from their own lives, or that they believe can be in a book. So I just wanted people to send me some stories, and unfortunately nobody has done it yet. But I'm hoping
you guys are watching. Check out Dia's books. We're still, going here, but I'll show you, where to find them. Her books are available in India, in the UK, and in the US. And if you go to her website, you'll find links on Amazon to all of them. And if you're just hopping on, we were just saying in the back of her books, you can find where she asks if you want to be a co-author of a published book. And that's so great for our children to, begin the writing process and begin to tell story and things like that. So make sure you all check that out at Dia's, at Charulatha's website. I'm calling you the character in the book. So if you don't mind, can you tell us about the other two books in your series?
Yeah, sure. So there is Mira and the New Shoes, which is about developing compassion for the others. Okay. And there is Avni and the Lost Puppy.
Yes.
Which is about, it's about how a little girl finds a lost puppy, and she's very happy that she can have a pet finally. So how they find the owner, and she has to return it back to the owner. I mean, she's feeling bad that they found the owner, and but eventually she finds happiness in going over to this old couple's house, whose pets these are, and they find happiness there, like playing with these grandfather and grandmotherly figures, and spending their time there. So eventually they find happiness in that, and Yeah. And I mean, to elaborate more about Mira and the new shoes, it was about how, somebody can think about their domestic help. And so the domestic help's daughter also used to come to the house and do a homework in their house.
Okay.
And how Mira eventually, instead of only thinking about herself, she expands it to think about the other girl as well. So it was about developing compassion. Yeah.
Okay. So did you choose one core value per book to focus on, or do you kind of mix them in?
So initially, I did think that I'll focus on one core value, but it doesn't work like that. I mean,
Mhm.
as you go through the story, there will be other core values also. So then I thought, let me not stick to it, with a very strict guideline or whatever, and just go with the flow of the story. And wherever I can, I'll just put in those small dialogues or actions which show these values.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. So, here on this podcast and in the group, we want to show parents how to use these books as tools in their home with their children. So, how did you intend for parents to use your books with their children?
So I want these books to gradually build values in the child,
Mhm.
and I'm writing more and more stories. So I would like to grow this series big. I would
Yeah.
like to have lots of stories in it, and I want the children to connect with these characters which are there in these stories. And at some level, I feel it will gradually build some value in the child as well, as as you see your favorite characters, as you feel some characters that you've read over and over and over again, and you have read so many more stories about the same character. You start trying to emulate that character, and you start trying to incorporate something from that character into your life. And so I'm hoping that's the way the parents can use it. And the child will read the stories and um, you know imbibe some values from it.
Yes, I know that, especially thank you for that. With Dia in a tournament, the first thing I saw when I read the book the first time was how it could be used as a tool in our homes. And I really loved the way it was written. Like you said, the illustrations were very warm. It was an easy read, and it was easy for my son Aiden to read it and understand like what was happening. And he had so many questions. And I think the
Yeah.
illustrations just, really help because they're so beautifully done to describe, add to the words in the books. So is there anything else that you want to share about your books?
So I'm also coming up with. I'm going to be soon launching, a doll with each of the books. I
Oh,
so I wanted something as a keepsake for the children. So with the Mira book, there'll be a Mira doll,
okay.
and I'm getting these made from textile scraps, from
Okay.
scrap, like a rag doll, like in the true sense, a rag doll. And
Okay.
I'm taking the help of this amazing organization, which actually the organization is full of HIV positive women, and
Okay.
so they, my friend helped me get these dolls made through them. Like she trained them and got these dolls made. So, but the next step is that like I'm going to release these dolls along with the book. And
Okay.
that's the
And
next.
and we'll be able to find more info. Let me give you guys the website one more time. As you have updates, we'll see them on your website. And is Instagram, are you very active there? Can our audience find you on Instagram?
Yeah. I am pretty active on Instagram. Uh, I've made it more of a parenting tips handle more than I should have been promoting my books there, but but then I'm just going with the flow and trying to deal with the common parenting issues and how can we handle those on my Instagram handle. Mhm.
Yes. Thank you for that. Okay. So we put up the links to the books. You have Charulatha's Instagram. And I asked you if there's anything else that you wanted to share about your books. Do you happen, let me go over to the comments and see if we have any questions. Somebody says it's a pretty neat idea to encourage children to write and submit their own stories. That is, if anybody's just joining, we talked about that a little earlier. If you have any stories you want to submit over to Charulatha for her series, Beaming Child, check that out. Is there anything that you wanted to say there?
No.
Oh, somebody just said hello. I'm just going to go on my phone real quick. Sometimes when I'm using this StreamYard, it's hard to see all of the comments. So I'm just going to check it out and see if we have anything over on this end. Somebody said, do you have any plans for the next book in your series?
Yeah, so the next 3 books are already ready and being illustrated right now and should be out the next couple of months.
Okay. Would you be able to share like a little sneak, like what the focus of the books are?
It's continuing. So we're just continuing with the series of books, the Beaming Child books. So it was the next book is about how this girl overcomes stage fear. How she's never gone on stage alone, and she gets this opportunity, and she tries to sneak out of it, but she eventually gets over that fear. So this one is about that. And the next one is also about, the other Diya book is about how sometimes you have preconceived notions about people. And so Diya doesn't like boys, and she's like, oh God, boys are always this and boys are that. And she gets over that too, that when she gets to know her new neighbor, she realizes that, it's not good to have these preconceived notions, right? Don't assume anything about anyone. Try to get to know them and then make a decision. So it's about that.
That's such an important theme. Both of them, actually. As soon as you said the stage right thing, I'm like, okay, I want Aiden to read to read that book. And I think that in the world that we're living in today, all the biases that people have and things like that, it's so important that the theme of your second book to read to our children. So many tools that you're putting out into the universe for parents to use. And I just love it. Let me just real quick put this information up here again. Oh, I already have it. So you guys know where to find Charulatha. If you want to find her online, I encourage you to check out every one of her books. Again, they're available on Amazon in the US, the UK, and India. Check those out. Anything else?
Yes. I would like to, you had mentioned it as one of the questions, and I thought it would be a good thing to talk about is the kind of, what somebody told me about the book, which really touched me, was, so one of the parents read the child read Meera and the New Shoes, which I said is about compassion and, how Meera ends up doing something for the domestic help's daughter. And like within a couple of weeks, my friend said, they were packing and going somewhere. And this boy immediately packs a lot of his toys. And he says that, okay, so the place where they were going, so they had a domestic help there whose kids used to come and play with him. And he said, let me take all these toys for those children. And she was like, he has never done it before. And she was, it actually gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh my God, my book can have that effect on somebody. It's incredible. So I just wanted to share that with you guys too, that it can have an effect on the child, and you don't know when they'll pick up things and how they will act. So it was wonderful to hear that story.
Yeah. That is wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that story. It's always a beautiful thing when we notice what our children are taking away from these books. Yeah. And that's why, you and I both, it's our main message, how these books can be used to instill these very important values in our children. So thank you so much for mentioning that story. That was so good to hear. It warmed me up. Thank you. Okay, well, if there isn't anything else, let me just check the questions one more time. Oh, somebody hopped on at the end. They just said hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I love that you were here to visit us today. And if you don't have anything else, everybody have a great night. It's the morning for our author, Charulatha. She's in Bangalore, India, and it's only about 7:00 a.m. there, or yes. So thank you so much for joining us so early. I appreciate you being here. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gwen. This is lovely being here.
No problem. Bye, everybody.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. See you on the flip side.